Hello everyone, in this video we will see how we can build a serverless GraphQL API using Appsync and free Ethereum on-chain data provided by Bitquery. This tutorial can be found on our official documentation as well, and you can view all the sample buckets that are available in the same documentation. We will be using Python to build the code, so let's get started with the tutorial. To get data from the S3 buckets in Appsync, we will be using Lambda functions as an intermediary. To create a Lambda function, navigate to your AWS console and open the Lambda application, and inside that click on create Lambda function. In that, select the author from scratch option, give a name to your function, and select Python 3 latest Python package as the language. After you have created the function, we will now start writing the code. Here, one thing to remember is that the file in the S3 bucket uses protobuf format, and for that we need the LZ4 library. The LZ4 library does not come prepackaged with the Python environment in AWS, and for that we need to follow a separate step. You will find a lot of tutorials online on how to add an external Python library to AWS Lambda. So, one approach would be to install that the library that you want, in a local folder, and then add it as a layer to the Lambda function. Here, you can see in the image, in the function overview section, you will see an option called layers. Here, you have to add a layer and then upload the uh, zip file of the all the libraries that you have created. Since I've already added the lz4 library, it is showing up in the layers tab here. Now that we have all the libraries that we want, we will write the function. So I have created a lambda handler function that will download the S3 demo bucket that we saw earlier and then decompress it. So this is an example of a lambda function that will use the sample S3 Ethereum buckets and decompress it. You can add additional steps here to print specific data that you want. We will now be using the lambda function that we created in the previous step in the Appsync application. So navigate to the AWS console and then to AWS Appsync. Once you are there, click on Create API. Here, select the GraphQL API option and then select Design from Scratch. Once you have completed that step, you will land on the home page of the API. Here, we will now set up the data source for the Appsync API. Here, click on Create Data Source and then give a name and then description and select AWS Lambda function. I have already added the Lambda function that I created in the previous step as a data source. The next step would be to create the schema. The schema of your API will depend on what data you're returning from the Lambda function. Here I'm returning in a custom object with status code and body. So I'm building a custom object that returns the status code and body, which is then called in the query resolver, which is then is a part of the main schema. So in this way, you have to, whatever data you're returning, you have to create a separate object and then declare each field as a part of that object. Once you have set up the schema and the data source, you are ready to write a query that will fetch data from the S3 bucket. So this is the tutorial for how to use the sample Ethereum data available on AWS Marketplace with the AWS Appsync and Lambda function. Thank you.